Tyler Perry wasn't just a friend. He was the golden parachute. When Harry and Meghan's royal world was collapsing in flames, he came through like a guardian angel with a billion-dollar halo. Gave them his ultra-secure Beverly Hills mansion, privacy, bodyguards, everything that the royals wouldn't give them. Archie had a safe place to play, and Tyler even became Lilibet's godfather. That's not casual friendship. That's family. That's trust. And Meghan, ooh, she milked it. Every Netflix shot, every public thank you, every podcast whisper was curated to crown Perry as their savior, the man who gave them peace and shelter when the palace turned its back. But plot twist, Tyler Perry has had enough. And he didn't just walk away, he came with receipts.
So buckle up, because this story gets even wilder than you could possibly imagine. We're talking about power, betrayal, billion-dollar empires, and secrets that could topple both a monarchy and a media dynasty. This isn't just about Harry and Meghan anymore. This is about what happens when you play chess with people who've been in the game way longer than you. Let's rewind for a second. Before Tyler Perry entered the picture, before the California Dream, before any of this mess, there was a moment, a single conversation that changed everything. It was March 2020, and Harry and Meghan were desperate. They'd just announced their exit from royal duties, the British tabloids were circling like sharks, and they had nowhere to go. Their security had been pulled, their funding cut off. They were, for lack of a better word, screwed. That's when Meghan made the call. Not to Oprah, not to any of her celebrity friends. She called Tyler Perry. Now, here's what most people don't know. Meghan and Perry barely knew each other. They'd met maybe twice at industry events. Brief conversations, polite exchanges, nothing substantial. So why would she call him in her darkest hour? Because she knew something about Tyler Perry that not everyone realizes. The man collects people. He collects stories. He collects leverage. Perry answered on the second ring. Sources say he listened for maybe 10 minutes while Meghan laid out their situation. Homeless, hunted by paparazzi, afraid for their son's safety. And Perry, being Perry, didn't hesitate. He said yes immediately. Private jet, mansion, security, the whole package. No strings attached. Or so it seemed. Here's the thing about Tyler Perry that you need to understand. He grew up with nothing. Abuse, poverty, homelessness. He clawed his way to the top through sheer determination and an absolutely ruthless understanding of human nature. When he offers help, it's never just charity. It's an investment, and he always protects his investments. So when Harry and Meghan landed in Los Angeles on that March night, stepping off Perry's private jet onto the tarmac of a private airport, they thought they were being rescued. They had no idea they were walking onto a stage, Perry's stage, and every word, every moment, every vulnerable confession was being carefully documented. The mansion they moved into wasn't just a house, it was a fortress. 18 acres in Beverly Hills, gated, secure, isolated, perfect for a couple trying to escape the spotlight. But here's what they didn't know. That house was wired. Not with traditional surveillance, that would be illegal, but Perry had something better, a trusted staff. People who'd worked for him for decades, loyal to him, not to his guests. And they had instructions. Document everything. Not maliciously, just thorough record-keeping. Dates, times, conversations, visitors, everything. And Perry himself, he kept voice memos, lots of them. After every phone call with Meghan, he'd record his thoughts, his impressions, direct quotes that stood out to him. He'd done this for years with everyone in his inner circle. It was his insurance policy. In Hollywood, where everyone's recording everyone anyway, Perry just did it better and more systematically than anyone else. The first few months were genuinely supportive. Perry checked in regularly, he gave advice on dealing with the media, he connected them with the right lawyers, the right agents, the right publicists. He was building a relationship, but he was also watching, learning, understanding exactly who these people were and what they wanted. And what they wanted was control, total control of their narrative. They wanted to be seen as victims who'd escaped oppression, as pioneers who'd chosen love over duty, as authentic voices speaking truth to power. Noble goals, right? Except there's a difference between living authentically and performing authenticity. And what Perry started to notice was that everything, absolutely everything, was calculated. He noticed it first in the small things, the way Meghan would rehearse casual statements before leaving the house, the way Harry would check his appearance obsessively before video calls, the way they'd strategize about which photos to let leak and which to keep private. None of this was natural. It was production, and Perry, being a producer himself, recognized it immediately. But the real red flag came about 6 weeks into their stay. Perry stopped by the mansion unannounced, something he rarely did. He walked in to find them in the middle of what looked like a business meeting. There were whiteboards, timelines, lists of media outlets ranked by influence, and there, spread across the dining room table, was a document. The document, the strategic repositioning plan. Perry didn't say anything. He just observed, made small talk, left after 20 minutes. But he'd seen enough. This wasn't a couple trying to heal. This was a corporate rebranding in progress. And suddenly, all those tearful late-night phone calls, all those vulnerable confessions, they took on a different color. Were they real or were they rehearsals? That night, Perry made a decision. He was going to continue helping them, but he was also going to protect himself. Because if this all went south, if they decided he was no longer useful, he knew exactly what would happen. He'd be erased, written out of the story. And Tyler Perry doesn't get written out of stories he helped create. So he drew up the residency agreement. His lawyers made it ironclad. The clause about public disavowal wasn't hidden in fine print. It was right there, clear as day. If Harry and Meghan publicly distanced themselves from Perry or attempted to minimize his role in their story, he reserved the right to release relevant documentation to correct the public record. They signed it without hesitation. Maybe they didn't think it would ever matter, or maybe they didn't think Perry would actually use it.
Big mistake. Over the next year, Perry watched the masterclass unfold. The Oprah interview happened exactly as outlined in that repositioning plan, beat for beat. The tears at the right moments, the revelations timed for maximum impact, the careful balance of vulnerability and strength. It was brilliant, actually. From a production standpoint, it was some of the best work he'd ever seen, and he'd seen a lot. The Netflix deal came next, $40 million for a docuseries about their journey. Perry congratulated them, sent champagne, but privately he was taking notes because he noticed something interesting. In all their public statements, in all their interviews, they barely mentioned him. A passing reference here and there, a friend helped us, someone gave us a place to stay. Never his name, never acknowledgement of just how much he'd done. He let it slide, for a while, because he understood optics. They were building a narrative about self-reliance, about finding their own path. Having a billionaire benefactor didn't fit that story. He got it, but he also filed it away, because patterns matter, and this pattern was heading somewhere he didn't like. Then came the lawsuit. A former employee at Tyler Perry Studios alleged workplace harassment, bullying, toxic environment. The media jumped on it. Suddenly, Tyler Perry's reputation, carefully cultivated over decades, was under attack. And that's when Meghan's team made their move. It started subtly. Old articles about Harry and Meghan's early days in LA started being updated. Perry's name disappeared. Photos of them at his mansion got taken down from official websites. Wikipedia edits scrubbed references to him housing them. It was systematic, professional, and it triggered every alarm bell Perry had. He called Meghan directly, asked her what was happening. She was smooth, sympathetic even, explained that her team was just trying to protect both of them from being dragged into his legal issues. She was sorry, but it was necessary. They'd always be grateful, but publicly they needed distance. Perry was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that Meghan would later realize was a warning. "I understand business decisions. I've made plenty myself. I just hope everyone remembers what agreements were signed and why they were signed." She laughed it off, said of course nothing would change their appreciation. The call ended cordially, but Perry's hand was already moving. He pulled the residency agreement, had his lawyers review the clause, confirmed what he already knew. They'd breached it. The disavowal was public and documented, which meant he was now legally and ethically clear to respond. But Perry's not reactive, he's strategic. He didn't rush, he waited. Let the lawsuit situation play out. Let Meghan's team get comfortable thinking they'd successfully distanced themselves. Let them believe they'd won. And then, 3 months later, he made his move. The first audio clip was 58 seconds. Just 58 seconds. But it was devastating. You could hear Meghan's voice, clear as crystal, talking about using the Diana card without manufacturing grief. Harry's voice in the background, saying Netflix wanted authentic pain but not too much crying. It was damning, not because they were evil people, but because it revealed calculation where the public had been sold spontaneity. The internet exploded. Everyone had an opinion. Some defended them, said everyone plans how they present themselves. Others felt betrayed. The carefully constructed image of raw authenticity started cracking. And Perry? He said nothing. Didn't confirm, didn't deny, just let the audio speak for itself. A week later, clip number 2. This one was even worse. Harry talking about balancing polish with pain. Meghan mentioning the third act of their documentary, using actual theatrical terminology to describe their lives. People started questioning everything. Were the tears in the Oprah interview real? Was the Netflix series genuine? Or was it all performance? The media went into overdrive, peace thinking everywhere. Former supporters started backtracking, and Harry and Meghan's team went into crisis mode. They issued statements, called the recordings out of context, suggested they might be manipulated, but they couldn't deny they were real, and they couldn't explain away the content. That's when the document leaked, the strategic repositioning plan, all 47 pages of it, complete with timelines, talking points, media strategies, and those 2 signatures at the bottom, Harry, Meghan. This wasn't a leak from Perry, though everyone assumed it was. Sources say it actually came from someone on their own team, someone who'd grown disillusioned, someone who'd kept a copy. But the result was the same. The plan laid out everything. Phase 1, establish victimhood through Oprah. Phase 2, demonstrate resilience through Netflix. Phase 3, build empire on authenticity brand. Phase 4, expand into lifestyle, wellness, and social impact sectors. It read like a corporate prospectus, because that's exactly what it was. And suddenly people understood. This wasn't a couple sharing their truth. This was a business venture. Their pain, their family drama, their struggles, it was all product, carefully packaged, expertly marketed, and sold to a public that thought they were getting raw honesty. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Brand deals started falling through. The lifestyle company Meghan had been developing, the one that was supposed to be her next big move, lost its primary investor. Podcasts got canceled. Speaking engagements dried up. The influencer economy runs on authenticity, and once that's gone, there's nothing left to sell. Harry took it the hardest. According to insiders, he started spiraling. He'd seen the plan, obviously. He'd signed it. But seeing it exposed like that, seeing the public reaction, something broke in him. He started questioning everything. Was anything they'd done genuine? Had he been manipulated by Meghan, by her team, or had he willingly participated in his own exploitation? The calls between Harry and Meghan changed. What used to be hours of strategizing and mutual support became short, tense exchanges. Sources say they started sleeping in separate parts of their Montecito mansion. The partnership that had seemed unbreakable was fracturing under the weight of revealed calculation.
And that's when Harry made the call to London, 3 a.m, California time. He didn't call William, too much bad blood there. He didn't call his father directly, the relationship was too complicated. He called Edward Young, his father's private secretary, just said he needed to talk, needed advice, needed to come home, maybe just for a while. The palace moved quickly.
They'd been watching the whole situation unfold with what we can only imagine was a mixture of satisfaction and concern. Satisfaction because it validated everything they'd said about media manipulation. Concern because Harry was still family, and watching him self-destruct wasn't pleasant, even for them. Within 48 hours, arrangements were made. A private jet from a small airport north of LA. No press notification, no official statement. Just Harry, one security guard, and a single bag. He didn't tell Meghan he was leaving until the night before. That conversation, according to sources, lasted less than 5 minutes. She didn't try to stop him. The flight back was apparently silent. Harry spent most of it staring out the window, occasionally making notes in a leather journal. The security guard said he looked like a man who'd just woken up from a dream and realized he'd been sleepwalking for years. He landed at a private airfield in the English countryside just before dawn. A black car was waiting. No royal standard on the hood, no ceremony, just transportation. He was taken to a quiet estate in the Cotswolds, a property owned by a distant cousin who'd offered it as neutral ground. Not a palace, not an official royal residence, just a place to breathe. The first person he spoke to was his father, now King Charles. The meeting was arranged for 2 days after his arrival. They met in a small sitting room, just the two of them, no advisors, no press secretaries, no recording devices, just a father and son who hadn't properly talked in years. What they said? Nobody knows. The royal family is very good at keeping secrets when they want to. But people who saw Harry afterwards said he looked lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. He didn't look happy, he looked exhausted, but there was clarity in his eyes that hadn't been there in years. Meanwhile, back in California, Meghan was facing her own reckoning. The lifestyle brand she'd been developing, American Riviera Orchard, launched to crickets. The website went live, products were announced, but the response was tepid at best. People weren't buying it, literally and figuratively. Her PR team scrambled. They tried positioning her as a victim of Tyler Perry's manipulation, tried suggesting the recordings were taken when she was vulnerable and under duress, tried spinning the strategic plan as normal business practice that everyone does. None of it stuck. The public had made up its mind. They felt duped, and there's nothing worse than making people feel stupid for believing you. Partnerships that had been in development for months suddenly went cold. A major streaming service that had been in talks for a new show pulled out. A publishing house that had offered an 8-figure deal for her memoir got quiet. Magazine covers that had been scheduled got postponed indefinitely. In Hollywood, when the tide turns, it turns fast and it turns completely. But here's where Tyler Perry showed his true genius. He didn't gloat, didn't do victory laps, didn't go on podcasts to tell his side. He just went back to work. The lawsuit that had triggered all of this, it settled quietly. Terms undisclosed, but sources say it was favorable to Perry. His reputation, instead of being destroyed, somehow came out stronger. Because while everyone else looked chaotic and calculated, Perry looked like a man who'd simply protected himself from people who tried to use and discard him. And that vault, the one everyone was talking about, Perry's never confirmed what else is in there, but the rumors are wild. Some say there's audio of Meghan practicing her Oprah interview responses. Others claim there's video of planning sessions for the Netflix documentary. Some insist there's a whole other document, even more detailed than the strategic repositioning plan, outlining a 10-year path to political office. True or not, the existence of the vault changed everything. It meant that Harry and Meghan could never fully control their narrative again, because somewhere Tyler Perry had the receipts, and he'd proven he was willing to use them when necessary. Now, months later, the dust is starting to settle. Harry's still in England, though he's made a few quiet trips back to California to see his children.
Those visits are brief, formal, and heavily negotiated. He's taken on a few royal duties, minor things mostly, charity appearances, hospital visits, the kind of work he used to do before everything went sideways. He's not back in the fold, not really. The relationship with William is still icy. The public still doesn't fully trust him, but he's trying, and that's more than anyone expected. Meghan's taken a different path. She's retreated almost entirely from public life. The social media updates are rare and carefully bland. The brand continues to exist, but barely. She's still in Montecito, still living in the mansion, but the energy is completely different. People who've seen her say she looks guarded, defensive, like she's waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because here's the real kicker in all of this. The story we've been told, the one about Tyler Perry as the villain who recorded his house guests, might not be the whole truth. Because what if Perry wasn't the only one keeping records? What if, in their determination to control every aspect of their narrative, Harry and Meghan documented everything themselves? What if some of those leaks came from their own archives? Think about it. They had a whole team, producers, directors, documentarians following them around for Netflix. Hours and hours of footage, raw interviews, behind-the-scenes moments, all of it stored somewhere, all of it potentially accessible to people who worked on those projects, people who might have their own reasons for wanting the truth to come out. There's a theory floating around, whispered in Hollywood circles, that the real source wasn't Perry at all, that he's just letting people assume it was him because it actually protects everyone involved. It makes him look powerful, it gives Harry and Meghan someone to blame, and it keeps the real leakers hidden. In Hollywood, perception is reality, and right now, the perception is that Tyler Perry is untouchable. So what's the end game here? That's what everyone wants to know. Is this the end of Harry and Meghan's story? The final chapter where they fade into obscurity? Another cautionary tale about fame and authenticity? Maybe, but probably not. Because this is 2026, and in our current media landscape, there's always room for a comeback, always space for redemption. The question is whether they want it, and more importantly, whether they've learned anything from this disaster. Harry seems to have learned something. He's quieter now, more careful. When he does speak publicly, it's measured. No more bombshells, no more tell-all interviews, just quiet service and an attempt to rebuild trust one small action at a time. It might work. The British public has a soft spot for redemption arcs, especially for someone they once loved.
Meghan's path is less clear. She's got talent, there's no denying that. She's smart, charismatic, and knows how to work a room. But she's also now synonymous with calculated inauthenticity. That's a hard brand to rehabilitate. She'd need to do something genuinely selfless, something that couldn't possibly be seen as strategic, and that's hard when everyone's watching for the strategy. The real winner in all this? Tyler Perry. Not just because he came out looking powerful, but because he proved something important. In the game of Hollywood chess, he's a grandmaster. He played a long game, protected himself perfectly, and never lost his composure. He's now the guy who both helped Harry and Meghan when they needed it and held them accountable when they betrayed that help. That's the kind of reputation that translates to power. And that vault? Whether it's real or mythology at this point doesn't even matter. The fact that people believe it exists is enough. It's a deterrent, a warning to anyone who might think about crossing Tyler Perry. Don't try to erase me from your story because I've got the receipts and I'm not afraid to use them. But let's zoom out for a second. Beyond the gossip, beyond the drama, what does all this really tell us? It's a story about authenticity in the age of personal brands, about what happens when the line between genuine emotion and content creation disappears. Harry and Meghan's mistake wasn't planning their media strategy. Everyone does that. Their mistake was selling authenticity while being strategic. Those two things can't coexist, at least not in the public eye.
We want our celebrities to be relatable and aspirational, vulnerable and composed, real and perfect. It's an impossible standard, and when someone tries to meet it through calculation rather than genuine self, eventually the cracks show, the scaffolding becomes visible, and the whole thing collapses. The tragedy is that Harry and Meghan might have had real pain, real struggles, real reasons for leaving the royal family, but by packaging it so carefully, by creating a strategic plan to monetize their trauma, they made it impossible for people to believe the genuine parts. They became their own worst enemies. And now they're living with the consequences. Harry's in limbo between two worlds, belonging to neither. Meghan's brand is in tatters, her dreams of empire building on hold indefinitely. Their marriage, whatever its current state, will never be viewed the same way. Every photo, every public appearance, every statement will be analyzed for strategy. The benefit of the doubt is gone. Tyler Perry, meanwhile, is working on his next project, something big, sources say. Maybe it's about royal families, maybe it's about Hollywood, maybe it's about loyalty and betrayal, or maybe it has nothing to do with any of this. The point is, he's moved on. He's won, and he did it without ever really fighting. The vault sits somewhere, real or imagined, full or empty. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it changed the game. It proved that in the age of documentation, everyone's truth is just one leak away from being challenged, that authenticity can't be manufactured no matter how good your strategy is, that power in Hollywood doesn't come from the biggest platform or the most followers. It comes from knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. So the story pauses here. Harry in England trying to find his way back to something resembling peace, Meghan in California trying to salvage something from the wreckage, and Tyler Perry in Atlanta sitting in his studio, maybe smiling, maybe not, but definitely in control. The next chapter will come. It always does. Maybe Harry will fully reconcile with his family. Maybe Meghan will find a new path that doesn't require performing authenticity. Maybe Perry will open that vault one more time, just to remind everyone who's really writing this story. Or maybe, just maybe, everyone will finally learn that some things shouldn't be content, some pain shouldn't be packaged, some lives shouldn't be brands, that the price of turning everything into product is losing the ability to simply be human. But this is Hollywood. This is the royal family. This is 2026, so probably not. The cameras keep rolling, the strategies keep evolving, the next scandal is already brewing somewhere, because if there's one thing we've learned from all this, it's that the show never really stops. The players might change, the setting might shift, but the performance continues. And we, the audience, we keep watching, keep analyzing, keep judging, because that's our role in this whole mess. We demand authenticity while rewarding performance. We want truth while consuming content. We're as complicit in this system as anyone else. So yeah, the story's paused, but it's not over, not even close. The vault is still there, the wounds are still fresh, the public's still watching, and in this game, the next move could come from anywhere. Place your bets now, because Act 3 is coming, and something tells me it's going to be the wildest one yet. This isn't just about royalty or Hollywood anymore. It's about all of us, about what we value, what we believe, what we're willing to accept as truth. And until we figure that out, stories like this will keep happening. Different names, same patterns. Different scandals, same lessons we refuse to learn. The prince, the duchess, and the mogul. 3 people who thought they could control the narrative. 3 people who learned that nobody really controls anything. 3 people who are now living proof that in the end, the truth has a way of getting out, whether we like it or not.